Hey, I just want to do this quick video. My name is Brenda Everall, and I live in Picton, Ontario, Prince Edward County, Ontario. And I just want to do this video quickly, which I'm adverse to doing, but the public needs this information. Um, it's about secret societies controlling our courts and our social systems. In 2000, I began advocating after my children were removed from my care by CAS. Unlawfully, pretty much. There was no reason for it, and I got the kids back, and I started advocating for others in similar situations. And by 2005, I was told by a foster child that she had been sexually assaulted, raped, if you will, in a local foster care home. So this child was moved to my aunt's home. That's where she disclosed this to us, and my aunt was a foster care provider. My aunt's name is Brenda Sokolowski, so that could get a little confusing if you dig into my issues. There's me, Brenda Everall, and my aunt, Brenda Sokolowski. So as time went on, I advocated for this young lady who disclosed sexual abuse in foster care. My aunt and I started dividing. My aunt was supporting the CAS and I was supporting the child. So CAS got dirty, came after me and my kids. I started a major smear campaign in my community. A local Presbyterian minister, Lynn Donovan, she came in and joined the oppression campaign, and her and my aunt and another Presbyterian minister, my cousin, Jennifer Sokolowski, held a intervention for me and told me that my advocacy was impacting my children and that I was more or less mentally ill because CAS had run an investigation and no children had been raped. So they were warning me to shut down my advocacy and to leave my husband, or they were going to turn me into the CAS. So I told them, since they were all regulated professionals, that they had an obligation to report their concerns to the CAS and not to be colluding with me at nighttime in private meetings. So then they lost control of me, more or less, and I went on to do what I wanted to do with blowing the whistle. And then the police came in, the CAS were all over my kids. It was just a crazy nightmare. I did time for charges that I was never convicted of. Yada yada. Police beatings. I was raped by a Canadian soldier. And that ties in later down the road to these secret societies and how our courts are controlled by, in my area mostly, predominantly, I'm seeing a lot of Freemasons. But I know other countries are controlled, other areas are controlled by different secret societies. The OTO, I know, is fairly active down under. And so it just depends on what... It doesn't matter what secret society, because from my research, most of them are controlled by the same hand nowadays anyways. So they're all serving the same agenda, or so it would seem. And so through my oppression, I started seeing these secret affiliations happening. And it was within my own family and within the courts and social systems. Certain police seemed to be part of something secret that other people didn't know about. And so that's when I just started really piecing together all this Freemason stuff. And I eventually stumbled onto Henry Makow online. Henry Makow, Makow. He has a lot of articles. He's obviously well versed with this Masonic stuff. And through further research, reading some of Henry's documents and my own research, I found Eva Seidel. She was a doctor that started up with a detox movement, and then she was targeted by Canadian institutions and whatnot to shut her down. She did some time, and she started noticing too these secret communications in the court. So she challenged, to my knowledge, she challenged the Supreme Court, and her allegations stand. as far as I've been able to find, that Freemasons are on the bench, and us Canadians, we're not in the loop on this. And so if Masons are on the bench and they've sworn an oath to their fraternity, that oath likely overrides the public office oath, and that creates a whole lot of problems. These secret societies were huge problems. I mean, there was a Secret Societies Act and a Secret Oaths Act enacted back in the 1700s to keep members of secret societies out of our social systems, because obviously it's a tilt, an imbalance. They're obviously fulfilling an agenda that the general public isn't aware of, and I'm seeing now that this is how we're seeing a lot of the pedophiles walk out of the court system. In my own sexual assault case with a Canadian soldier, he opted for just a judge, not a jury, just the judge. So in that case, I saw that his lawyer seemed to me to be Masonically connected somehow to the judge, and just between that the defense lawyer and the judge, they had the case in the bag. They ran the whole thing. It was closed for my own protection, so the general public couldn't see what was going on, and it was just a major shit show, and they did what they wanted. And after being held for a year and a half because of all the evidence, and having priors and allegedly reoffending, no matter what, with this judge at the trial, he let the guy go. So there was just a lot of sideways bullshit going on there. And so then eventually, when I started tying together the ministers and the cops and all of them colluding together to conceal what I was trying to blow the whistle on, being child rapes, I thought that a Presbyterian minister interested in social justice would be right on board to help me expose this. But as I was trying to expose it, she was actually partnering up with the CAS to start a program called Reaching for Rainbows. Now, people familiar with secret society or Freemasons know that there's young people programs, and one of their programs is Rainbows. I believe it's for 10 to 21-year-olds, 11 to 21, somewhere in there. So to me, this Reaching for Rainbows for girls 6 to 9, I believe it's age 6 to 9. To me, that's a precursor program for the Rainbows program. So I started seeing secret affiliations through my church, and my minister seemed to be talking to a group of people that I wasn't in. And they all seemed to know what she was talking. It just seemed like messages were being sent out that I couldn't understand. But obviously someone in the congregation could. So I just really started paying attention, and then I came across a document called Voluntary Associations and Community in Picton, Ontario, Canada. I think it was 1870 to 1914, the period ranged from, and the heading title for that document was Blessed Be the Ties That Bind. So I had noticed that my Presbyterian minister had signed an email saying, Blessed be the ties that bind. So I felt that I was onto something, and I read the document that was a thesis for a university written by James Taylor Calnan, or James Calnan Taylor. I always get that mixed up. But anyways, it clearly defines how Picton was used as a study ground. Masons were using our community to study the effect of community and fraternalism and brotherhood and all that stuff. And they clearly say in the document that it was a relationship between a local level and a national level, and that there was bigger agendas than what the community understood. And the document clearly goes on to say that class was pretty much created because of these secret societies and who they let in and didn't let in. And private perks, the insurance company seems to be controlled through the Oddfellow Order, and then there was the Order of the Orangemen. They were all working together, even though they had their own independent order, but the number of men that were in those societies at the time were incredible. And then women's, for the feminists out there who think that they've created their own movement, not so. It really seems like all these women's orders and women's associations and whatnot, they were all launched off through these fraternities and controlled by the men. So women that think they're liberated, you're just honestly part of an agenda that you have to wake up to. And if you really want out of the patriarchy, you have to wake up to secret societies. But please, for the record, that doesn't mean you need to become a radical feminist. We need balanced equality for the genders, and not an extreme to one degree or another, because the men are suffering now. Men are without services. There's no shelters for these men. The domestic abuse against them is incredible. Most of them have no rights to their own children, but have to pay through the nose for them. The suicide rate for men is through the roof. I've been advocating men's issues for years. That's how I got myself into trouble with that Canadian soldier. I was going to advocate so he could see his children, but I guess we found out there is a reason he wasn't allowed to see them. So that also taught me a lot about blind advocacy. You know, not every parent deserves to see their child, but the majority do. Another important part is the lodge here in Picton, the Masonic Lodge. It was 200 years old, a couple years before the town. So the Masons have been here long before places were established and whatnot. So the problems we're seeing in the world, we got to wake up to these secret societies. Nothing's going to change until we call them to account, call them out of the darkness into the light that we're all standing in, looking for answers. And we're just not going to get answers if we can't bring them to account. And we're not going to be able to do that if we keep infighting. I don't give a damn if the earth is flat or round, or if it's Rockefeller in control of this or Rothschild in control. It doesn't matter who's... We know who the bad guys are at this point. The Vatican, the UN, the Agenda 2030, the Jesuit order, things like that. That's what we have to pay attention to, and all of our answers are going to come when we bring this system down, when we regain our power. All the documents and science is there for us to dig into. So let's just wake up to what's controlling us and collectively work together to stop it. I know everybody's confused about common law and natural law and all the different... I'm drawing blanks right now on the... I was just informed of a new law the other day that is embedded in common law, but is actually the foundation of it. So somebody's just put me onto that. So, like, I'm always learning. There's no real eureka moment where we're all gonna just go, oh, and have the answer. Like, we got to keep working together, and we all have a piece of the puzzle. And when we keep beating each other up, that puzzle's never ever going to get put together. So let's pull our shit together, be decent humans to each other, keep digging for this truth, find out who our actual enemy is that's causing all this suffering on the earth, and stop it. Like, it's not that hard if we just put our egos aside, wake up to what's going on, and work together and stop it. Let's do that.